It's time to find out
What Shane said
with Shane Manila.
First off, just wanted to give a big thank you to everybody that reached out to me on Twitter, DM'd me, etc. Just letting me know that they enjoyed the first episode. Truly appreciate that. I spoke about how nervous I was about doing last week's show, but I truly appreciate everybody reaching out. So what I decided to do this week was take all that goodwill I got from everybody in the community last week and absolutely ball that up and throw it in the trash this week. And the way I decided to do that was I'm just going to tell you that it's time to completely get out on a specific wide receiver and wide receivers in a similar range. But I'm going to attack one specific wide receiver later. We'll get there. But, you know, I thought that would be fun. I thought it was apropos. We just came off the NFL Combine. We had a hell of a show from Brian Thomas Jr., from Xavier Worthy, setting a new 40, Lad McConkey, Roman Wilson, Roma Dunze. Just an absolute freak show this week at the Combine for wide receivers. Rookie wide receivers coming in. It's a great class, depending on the landing spots. Really going to be a fun class to watch. So let's hope that they all get really good landing spots and that all these dudes are going to be able to produce. Either way, it's a great rookie draft class. But that's not specifically what we're talking about this week. What we're talking about is wide receivers we need to run like hell from when they bust out in their rookie season. And like I said, I just wanted to crush the goodwill I got last week from the community. My shrink says that I am what's called a relationship self-saboteur, sabotager. If you don't know what that is, well, congratulations, you're well adjusted. I am not. So what I do is I find a good relationship and I try to ruin it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to ruin our good relationship. And the way I'm going to do that, like I said, is just trashing a wide receiver. Before we get into that, I do want to discuss that, you know, usually I do talk about flexibility. It's important to be flexible with your significant other. Make sure you're nice and bendy for them so that they'll want to continue to doing the fun stuff with you. I think you know what I'm talking about, Connect Four and such. And it's important to have flexibility on your dynasty rosters and keep flexibility in your dynasty mindset. But this is going to be one of the few times where I go, it's either this or that. It's binary. It's black or white. If this, then that, always. So I always look to sell wide receivers, rookie wide receivers that don't score at a certain threshold. Usually that threshold is about 9.5 points, fantasy points per game. I'd have to actually look it up, and I've done this dozens of times where I've gone and looked at what rookie wide receivers have done in their first year and compared it to the results going forward. This week, we're going to find a specific scoring threshold, scoring range. And the range I'm going to get to, or the range I'm going to use, is rookie wide receivers that have scored between 8 fantasy points per game to 9.3 fantasy points per game. So I didn't want this to be too big of a list, or I should say I didn't want to have to wade through hundreds and hundreds of players. So that's why I picked that specific range, and we'll talk about again later why I picked that specific range. There's a couple of specific players that I think are interesting that speak to this, I don't want to say phenomenon, but really speak to the discussion today. So from 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 2, actually 8. That's 8 seasons. There were 19 wide receivers, 19 rookie wide receivers that scored between 8 and 9.3 fantasy points per game in their rookie season. So I went through and looked at their data after that. So after that, these players have played a total of 53 seasons, again, excluding their rookie seasons. After that, they've played 53 seasons. Out of those 53 seasons, there were 2 wide receiver 1 seasons and 2 wide receiver 2 seasons. That is a 3.77 hit rate of either wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 season coming out of these wide receivers. If you want to be generous, we could even call it 3.8. You don't want to call it 3.77? Cool. Let's just use one decimal, 3.8. Does that make you feel better? Doesn't make me feel better. I got to be honest with you. So again, let's just repeat that in case I mumbled through the words. from 2015 to 2022, 19 wide receivers fell in a range of 8.0 fantasy points per game and 9.3 fantasy points per game in their rookie season. A total of 4 of them provided wide receiver 2 or better production. That is a rate of 7.69. Let's say this another way. That means 92.31% of the time, these wide receivers that went on to produce a wide receiver 3 or worse season. Again, it's 19 wide receivers, but it does give us a subset, or at least it gives us a data set of 53 seasons, which I think is pretty substantive. I don't know if that's the correct word. Substantial, whatever. I think it's significant. I think it's a good data set to work off of. 53 seasons after their rookie seasons, and 92% of the time, we didn't even get a wide receiver 2 or better season. You could say wide receiver 3 seasons are useful. They are, but wide receiver 3 seasons are also highly, highly replaceable. Quite frankly, some wide receiver 2 seasons really aren't built like that either. Wide receiver 1 seasons is truly what I'm looking for out of a player. Obviously, if I get a wide receiver 2 season out of a player that I didn't pay for those wide receiver 2 prices, I'm ecstatic. Generally, I'm looking for a wide receiver 1. So again, 92% of the time in 53 seasons, we've got wide receiver 3 or worse production. That's pretty bad. So just so you know, condoms, you may have heard of them. They are like 90% effective. So that means apples to apples, you're safer not using a condom than you are holding on to a wide receiver that scored between 8 and 9.3 fantasy points in their rookie season. I do have to put one note on this so you don't sue me. I don't know if condoms are only 90% effective, and you probably should always use them. I don't need anyone hitting me up in 9 months saying they have a kid because I told them not to use a condom. All right. I didn't tell you that. You can't sue me. I'm not a doctor. You shouldn't be listening to my medical advice. What I hear is a lot of narrative, a lot of times about these players. This time it's different. Because this player was drafted in the first round. This player's situation's better. This player's situation or this player's skill set is better than the other players. So what I did is I went back and I looked up these 19 players. I just wanted to look up their draft ranges. And I'll say this, it hits all draft ranges, but it mostly, these 19 wide receivers come from the first 3 rounds. Specifically 11 of the 19 are first 3 rounds, and 9 of these 19 receivers come from either the first round or the second round. 4 of these wide receivers are first rounders, 5 are second rounders. Then we have 1 third rounder, 3 fourth rounders, 1 7th rounder, and then 5 UDFAs. So I would say the UDFAs, we fully expect them to bust. So there's really not a lot to see here. But the fact that we have 9 wide receivers that come from the first 2 rounds, I think is pretty telling. Each one of those 9 had a story, had a reason as to why they didn't hit in their first season, had a reason that you could point to of why things were going to be better in the second year, why things are going to improve for them, and they didn't. So again, this is why I'm super binary on this. If a rookie wide receiver does not hit, I don't want them. It's that plain and simple. So what we talked about, I've given you the range. I accidentally said one of the players' names, so we'll just put it out on the streets now. Wide receiver that made me think about this was Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Jaxon Smith-Njigba scored 8.8 points per game per player profile. And just so you know, when I talked about these ranges, I even added a half fantasy point per game to get a bigger subset. So just this couple of points on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. My dude was the 106 in rookie drafts per DLF's ADP in 2023. But as of early March 2024, his KTC points were 51.38, and he was the wide receiver 25. Now, another player that fell in this range during their rookie season, and again, I like this because he is very, very similar, was Treylon Burks. In his rookie season, he scored 8.6 points per game. He was the 105 in rookie DLF ADP in 2022. which again, Jaxon Smith-Njigba scored 8.8 fantasy points per game and was the 106. So Treylon Burks was actually coveted a little higher coming in the rookie drafts, though Jaxon Smith-Njigba outscored him by 0.2 fantasy points per game. So why am I talking about Treylon Burks? Treylon Burks is a player that some people decided to hold on to despite a bad rookie season, a non-impactful rookie season. So they did so. So do you want to know what Treylon Burks is worth today? Today, you could trade Treylon Burks for DeAndre Hopkins, who is very old, Michael Williams, who is very bad and injured all the time, Jonathan Mingo, who is terrible, just terrible football, Elijah Moore, 2026, late second, 2026, 2 years from now, late second, 210 or so. If you were to trade Jaxon Smith-Njigba today, after just one bad year, right? He didn't have 2 bad years. You're moving off of him after 1 year. You're re-rolling. You know what you can move him for? Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, DK Metcalf, 2026 early first, 2025 mid first, 2024 late first, Jaden Reed, Deebo Samuel, 2026 mid first. See the difference there? You can still move Jaxon Smith-Njigba for 80 to 90%, if not more, of what you drafted him at, as opposed to holding on to him. And he's likely, based off the stats I already gave you, he's likely to be bad again. And then you're looking at, oh, can I trade him for Jonathan Mingo, the next Jonathan Mingo? And again, I'm just using KTC data here. I'm looking at the rankings. I looked at wide receivers and picks, and that's what I'm basing it off of. So to me, it's simple. You're re-rolling. There's absolutely no reason to hold on to Jaxon Smith-Njigba and tell yourself that he's going to be one of the, I'll round up, 8%. He's going to be one of the people that can give you one of those 8% hit rates to give you a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 season going forward. Again, it doesn't happen. Wide receivers that bust in their rookie year are likely to bust out. There's nothing to look forward to. Treylon Burks is what you have to look forward to. Antonio Callaway is what you have to look forward to. Remember Corey Coleman? That was fun. Will Fuller, who I thought was actually a lot better than he was. I looked it up. My dude had 1 wide receiver 1 season and 1 wide receiver 2 season in 5 seasons outside of his rookie year. So Will Fuller is a success story. You know who else is the other success story on this list? Kenny Golladay. Because Kenny Golladay went ahead and gave you a wide receiver 1 season and a wide receiver 2 season as well. That's it. Will Fuller, Kenny Golladay. Now, again, before you start trashing me, there were 4 wide receivers drafted in the first round in this subset. It's Rashad Bateman, Corey Coleman, Treylon Burks, who I've already talked about, and Kadarius Toney. That's the group. That is the group that JSN is in right now. I'm not saying this to be hot takey. I'm not saying this so you'll be mad at me. I was kidding earlier. I don't want people to be mad at me. I'm a narcissist. I want people to like me. I need validation. I want you to like me. But I also just want to tell you the facts. Facts are JSN didn't produce as a rookie at a level that makes him worth holding on to. You're better off re-rolling. That's it. Another just simple episode. I'm a simple man. I'm going to keep it simple for you. Any questions? Let me know. Feel free to disagree with me. Hit me up in the comments and let me know you disagree with me if you disagree with me. But I will say this. Go use StatHead. Get you a subscription to them. It's pretty good sub. I love running player season finders, so I can compare what has happened in the past to, just so I can look at what happened in the past for a certain range of player, for a certain range of outcomes. Is it guaranteed that, the next player is going to perform as badly or as good? No, but it's pretty indicative and pretty predictive from what I've seen. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, we'll do better next time. Thank you.